And yes, the reason I mentioned the Athenian actually was exactly because it was through that Anthony found me. It was the only English publication at the time. And so Anthony would pick it up occasionally to get the news. And he saw my name on the masthead as a publisher. Actually, my husband was doing this magazine. He was the editor, but I was the publisher. And so he called me to come to meet me, whether I would be interested in participating in helping in the program, which was at the closing time at that time. And whether I would know some IPs to also be patrons of the program, which I did. And one day he said he would come to the office often with Tolis, try to tell me that he's teaching Raja Yoga, but I wouldn't be interested in that at that time at all. But I was interested in meeting him, and I did accept his invitation to go to Madhuban in February 89. He said a few words like, it is a summit meeting in Mount Abu, and those 5-6 words, I don't know, did something in me. And I said, before I knew whether he was going to invite me, I said, I'm coming. And that's how my whole life changed. I went to that meeting. And as soon as I arrived, I think I was born through vibrations. I was born through experience rather than listening to knowledge. That came later. Anyway, that was the beginning of my Brahmin life. And during that meeting, speaking of science, as Maria said, yes, I immediately had an interest in bridging science and consciousness somehow, because they're two different paths, totally apart. And there was an Indian environmentalist there called Rashmi Mayur. In fact, I looked him up. He's quite famous and important these days. And during a small meeting of a small group meeting, somehow he turned around to me and said, you know what? You are going to organize a science symposium in Athens. I will give you the list of scientists to come, and that will be it. So as soon as I came back from Madhuban, the first thing I did was start. I inspired also Anthony and a whole team of brothers, mainly. Neville was very instrumental in that. Thorsten, I can't remember all the names now, but a whole international team. And we got sponsors, and we got free accommodation, and it was a miracle. The old University of Athens as the venue, and 2 Nobel laureates participated in that first meeting. Anyway, I was 11 months old in January 1990, 11 months old Brahmin, the first symposium took place. Anyway, that's history. If we are interested about the symposia, there is a very easy link that Maria maybe can write it down. It's Elio, 2 L's and 2 T's, .gr/symposia. And all the participants and the names and the minutes and the whatever happened are there in detail. So that was past history. And maybe it is time, though, I've been thinking a lot lately, it has come to mind very often that it's time to again get in touch with scientists, because I remember a message that Baba gave to Ramesh Pai years back, and I don't know how I found it. nowhere. I mean, it popped up in my screen one day somehow, and it said, Baba said, there will be a time where spirituality will be explained scientifically and science will be explained spiritually. And that kind of clicked inside me, that actually the only credible part of, the scientists and the only credible ones to become mics and to prove spirituality in a scientific way. And recently asked one of the scientists, Greek scientists who had been part of that, the group and the committee and the symposia. And I asked her, Fotini, how are the scientists in terms of consciousness? She said, total darkness. They still don't know what it is. And the reason is because they're looking at the wrong place. Genti mentioned the CERN the other day, the great collider of matter, because they're trying to split matter in smithereens, and they believe that the smallest particle will give them the answer to how the universe was created. But that's not, and we know very well that the knowledge is not there. It is in a small point of light, but that's Baba. Consciousness, not matter, knows the whole story. And actually, yes, it's a waste of, but anyway, they're having a good time there, and they spend lots of money. But maybe it's still, it's again time now, as the end is coming closer, to invite some scientists in Greece again, but that's on the back burner yet. It will happen though. I'm sure at the right time, Baba will give us the clues. I would like to start on the subject of the power of thoughts, the amazing power of thoughts, the velocity and the speed with which they travel. Baba's Murli on the 30th of July was wonderful, how he explained exactly that and how it works. I want to start with a quote, but I'm going to read it to you, of Einstein that matches exactly what Baba says. And he said, it's the quote I like most of all. He said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics, which talks about exactly that the energy, because thought is energy, vibrations, frequency, and depending on the quality of that energy, it can reach and do what it has to do. Of course, just as all the physical vehicles, like cars and airplanes and rockets, use the most pure fuel to travel. The purer the fuel, the fastest the vehicle travels. And I understand that of course there is airplanes use kerosene and rockets use liquid hydrogen. So there is no residue, it's purest energy, and that makes vehicles go fast. Same goes with us. The purest the thought, the highest the intention, the most elevated vibration that we spread out, the faster it goes, the further it goes, and the more powerful it is. Purity, therefore, is the basis of the all of these things that the thought does. And as Einstein said, whatever your vibration is, whatever you visualize, whatever your thought is going out for, that's what happens. And I think this is how the new world is created. It's amazing to think. Baba tells us all the time, but it's still amazing every time we hear it, that the world will change through thoughts. It won't change because the planet needs more trees and needs planting and the gas emissions have to reduce. And these are not methods that are going to get anywhere, as we very well know, but it's the vibrations of thoughts, the pure, elevated thoughts that create the new world. And not only that, but they destroy all the negativity of souls and matter. And the positive elevated thoughts purifies all souls and matter. And this is our job. I think the highest status that a soul can have, at least for me, this is what I think, is to be called a helper of God in the task of transformation of the world. Because we see how it's going more and more towards the end. It's quite clear. And the closer we get, the more powerful we get, and the happier we get. And the purity that is the fuel for the elevated thoughts, pure thoughts, are the ones who travel and are most effective. Another adjective that I would add to the title is effective. And effective are the pure thoughts. Yes, there are other thoughts that travel, but look what they have done. All negativity, it's like a black cloud around the globe right now, affecting and influencing everybody and nature. And only when these souls that come close to Baba accept and allow Baba to purify them and get into this process of becoming God's children, God's helpers, this is a vibration that is going to dispel that cloud and bring the new world. It's magic. It really is. And yeah, it's a thought I always have. What do you think really does what you think? That's why, as Einstein said, if your frequency...
Cuando se expande...
Say? I didn't hear.
Nothing, Drossoula. Sorry, there is a translator change because of a problem. Just a second.
Hay un cambio porque tenemos un problema.
Okay, sorry.
Ok, lo siento.
Slow now. Okay. And when the frequency of our thoughts matches the vision of the future, that happens. That's how heaven is created. It's really magic. And the more I think of it, the more I understand it, the more it helps also work on the self to purify, to make sure that there is no residue in the soul remaining, even in subtle forms. Because we still need to work on that, because the gross negativity, the gross wrong actions we used to do have all gone. All these very bad sanskars that we carried for so many births usually have left us. I mean, yes, for most Brahmins, this is past history. but there are subtle. And the subtler something is, the more powerful it is. It's the subtle ones that are harder to get rid of, because just like love is the most subtle of all powers, it's the highest power. The more subtle something is, the most powerful it is. That's why Baba is who he is. He is subtle. And that's when the power becomes unlimited. Thoughts with desires, thoughts with intentions get to where you send them. But unlimited thoughts, you don't have to get them back. You just give them and they get to the end of the universe, covers the whole globe. Every soul and every particle of matter receives that frequency, that vibration of purity and love. Because love is the result of the pure thought. It's what really is the transformative power, really. The reason we transform is due to God's love. He accepts us as we are. He doesn't judge anyone. And it's that love that we receive that makes us his helpers, makes us to return the love and return and do whatever he tells us every day. And so, yes, this idea of understanding, rather, because it's not an idea, the reality of the power of elevated thoughts. It's immense power. We really have to think a lot about it, at least I do, and I think a lot about it, that actually and it's not that I have a desire when I think, it's that I connect with Baba and let his vibration reach wherever it has to reach. The whole universe, in fact. The whole world. It's not like I have it, it's connecting, and that is purifying me and purifying the world as well. So we have to. So these are a few thoughts on pure thoughts and churning that my scientific mind, I try to understand it in a scientific way. Because Baba says it is reality, it's science. He said there are no scientists actually who know what we know. Not one, the most famous, the most appraised, the most educated, the highest scientists, they don't know. I heard a talk yesterday of some scientists talking about the universe, and I couldn't understand what they were saying, but it was totally incomprehensible. That the universe is flat, that it expands, that it reduces. I just don't know. I mean, anything that comes to their mind. And so we are the real scientists. And Dadi Janki, I remember she's the biggest scientist. She said once about the energies, that every energy depends upon its higher energy. So there is a whole row of energies starting with Baba, and each one depends upon the one higher than this. Everybody needs somebody higher than himself, herself, the soul, has no gender, to change, to be helped, to be supported. And we have the highest of on high energy, teaching us, supporting us, transforming us. We are just so lucky. I don't want to take more of the time because I noticed that time has gone by. And I don't know if there are any questions or if there is something else.
Drossoula, we have a lot of time.
Yeah, we do?
Yes.
Oh,
So,
yes, of course. I'm sorry. I thought we finished at 8. No, lots of time.
yeah, you can
My mistake.
continue with your scientific
Scientific, well, listen, it's very funny, but I was very bad in physics at school. I had a very bad teacher who I didn't like at all, so I wouldn't study physics or chemistry. And I didn't fail the class, but I was not very good at it. And I don't know how, as soon as I took this knowledge, all this urge to the need to explain spirituality through science, because that is going to happen definitely, and came upon. And Anthony said, "You had a bad teacher in physics, so you wouldn't go back to university to study it again." This time, in this life. Maybe he was right. We remembered Anthony a lot the last few days because it's 9 years since he left us. And we had lovely tributes and memories to share. So yes, the reason I had this immediate interest in organizing, being instrumental, because I didn't do anything alone, of course, this scientific symposia, and I still want to do one, another one in Greece, because Greece is very inspiring as a country to scientists. And that's why they would all come very happily to such gatherings. That's because before I became a Brahmin, and actually at the time when Anthony came to meet me at the office, I had read a book that existed only in the Greek language, although it was written by a Swiss-German person here in Greece. The story is that he had been in coma. He was a teacher in his village, nobody too important position, but he felt sick and went into a coma. And when he came to, he knew, and he kept a diary of the knowledge he took of the future 1,000 years or so in Europe. And he described that, and that had struck me even then, before I took knowledge, that there will be a time when there will be great difficulties in the world, and a lot of sorrow and pain and disturbance and so on. But eventually, some scientists will gather together, and the book is called The Valley of the Roses, in a valley of roses, somewhere in Europe, where an old gardener is cultivating roses not to have a color, but to have a light, to emit light. Anyway, 200 scientists will gather and experiment and prove the existence of the soul and God. He said it in different words, but that's exactly what it meant. And that's when the world will change. And then it will be, and he describes the world because in his coma, he traveled to that world and he experienced that beautiful world of heaven. So when Anthony was coming to tell me, I teach Raja Yoga, to see if I had an interest to go and listen to his classes or his method, I did all the talking, and I was telling, Anthony, the world will go through great trouble, but eventually it will be heaven. And the ones who will make it, so will prove it, so people will understand, are scientists. I kept saying to him at that time. Very strange. But anyway, that's when the interest for organizing science symposia came from. I was convinced even then. Of course, I had made my little plan that when all these horrible times come that he described in the book, I will go and I'll come back when heaven is ready. Little I knew that I would be part of the creation, small part of the creation of heaven, but contribute to the creation of heaven through thoughts, and only that. Another story of Anthony was that 2 years before, he actually came to the office to meet me and asked me about the program at the Global Cooperation. He had sent me ready-made films describing, advertising the program, 1,000,000 Minutes of Peace, 2 years prior to our meeting. And I liked it so much when I read what the Brahma Kumaris were doing. I read the whole thing. At the bottom, it had name, address, Brahma Kumaris and all. All I did, I wasn't interested because I had the thought that it's wonderful because all the tallies with my, with the title of this talk. It had to do with thoughts, donate thoughts. And I liked it because they were not asking for money, just positive thoughts. And I printed it in the magazine for many months. He asked me to put it in a couple of times, but I liked it so much. I did not communicate with him directly. He just sent me an envelope and said, could you please place this in the magazine to help the program? And so I did service unbeknownst to me 2 years prior. And so it was, and it had to do again because I always believed in the power of thought even before I became a Brahmin. I don't know why, but I did. And so my efforts is that on that level to have the thought combined with Baba and let go with no desire of what this thought is going to do, no plans, just listen and follow the inspirations that he gives, the guidance that he gives, the words he tells us, what we have to do, follow it fully. And the miracles do happen. I've had the experience of doing this when challenges come, and of course challenges come daily to all of us, there is no question about it. But to really not go over it, give it to Baba, never be afraid, and never even think of what is the solution. Just give it and the solution comes. When you don't have a desire for something to happen in a particular way, the best happens. Because the better that I think may prevent the best that may come. So it's It's how we use our minds and intellects. And Baba tells us what to do every day. And we have to make it in such a way that it's a constant connection. It's takes effort to really remember yourself and God at every step, as he says, to the point where it becomes so natural that you don't even have to try to remember. That's what Baba says. That's the level we have to reach, and I think we are all progressing beautifully. I feel that the family is really moving ahead quite fast at these times, in these times. And the reason that I have in mind, and Baba is kind of touching the intellect again, to start organizing, not alone, but with a group of Brahmins from international committee, in fact, to invite scientists again, is because there is a myth that Greece has to play a part in this, in not in the exact revelation, but the myth goes, and the place we choose to have this symposia quite often is Delphi, the Oracle of Delphi, the Temple of Apollo in Delphi. And we had many there, several of them. And the myth says that when Zeus let two eagles fly in different directions, they met in Delphi. That's what it's called, the omphalos, or the earth. So I think this is very inspiring, because the myth has some reason to be there. Something has to, I don't wonder what has to be done. I look at the myth and I say, if this happened really, this is what we have to do now. If Greece is going to play a part in a scientist speaking about the soul, maybe, I don't know what, I look at the myth and I say what we have to do now. And Greece played the role of giving the knowledge from the east to the west. Daddy Yankee called it a bridge between east and west. And so we'll see what it's in store for us in terms of service. I liked what Genti said the other day. Arun asked her, we've done all the service, now there won't be much more. And Jen said, no. Most of it is ahead. Now is the time of truly going fast as the time goes fast. So the reason we have to really serve scientists, and again, is that they, one or two, or I don't know how many, through experience, recognize, experience spirituality. It's not through scientific methods, and they've done so many experiments proving that there is some energy other than matter that governs things, but they don't know what this energy is to this day, where it stands. They don't know the soul, they don't know the God. Therefore, they look at the wrong place. There is a story by Hoxha. I think the Turkish people know who Hoxha was, and there are many amusing stories. And somebody was looking for his keys under the light, the street light. And Hoxha went and said, "Man, what are you looking here for?" And he said, "I lost my keys." And he said, "Where did you lose your keys?" And he said, "Over there." And he said, "Why are you looking here?" "Because it's dark there. Here is the light." You lose something and you look at the wrong place for it. And it's Baba's children and Baba who is going to explain this to, not through words most likely, but through experience. The story in that book that inspired me so much at that time was that the scientists actually experiment with it's through experience that they understand how the energies, the energy of the soul, the energy of Baba, and how the whole universe was never created, but it's always there, and it's only a cycle, and it's not a straight line, but they're thinking about, all of this has helped me a lot in my journeys and my effort. Still work has to be done, of course, but we're all in the process of purifying ourselves completely. I liked what Genji said the other day, that when you plant something, you have to dig deep in the soil to put the seed, so it takes and blossoms. So after that, I thought maybe I should dig deeper to plant the seed and see what else is down deep within that needs to be cleansed. Two things. One is to plant, and the other is to cleanse any sanskars that remain. And we have to go beyond all the thoughts that do not bring benefit. If a thought is not beneficial for me and for others, I have to immediately catch it and replace it. If I let it expand, then I wilt. It's so easy to go from soul consciousness to body consciousness. It's an instant. It takes an instant to go from one condition to the other. And so thoughts, but Baba says, so obvious we have to do, check your thoughts, observe your thoughts, and choose your thoughts. Have fewer thoughts. It's not like not have any thoughts. Daddy Janki was saying, it's not to have thoughts when she says you have to not think, but to have a different quality of thoughts than what you used to have. Instead of expanding in negativity, and one thought brings the other, and just choose elevated, pure thoughts full of love, compassion, and then the change comes, transformation comes in the soul, in the environment, all around, affects those near me, those far away. The pure thought, we said, has no limit. That's why we sit and meditate and send vibrations to the whole world. And this is a reality. It's effective. It does have an effect. Because sometimes we do it, but we are not sure if what we do is effective. It is a reality. It happens. It brings the reality you want to live in. Yeah, that quote of Einstein really says everything. We call it frequency, but it is the energy of the soul, because this is what you can create your own reality. That means whatever you think, you create. And to create a new world, it takes elevated, pure thoughts full of love, compassion, kindness. You know, working on the self, some people might think that to be introverted, to turn inside and work on yourself, people may think that it's kind of selfish. It's not. It's the most altruistic thing I can do. Because I don't do it for myself. I don't even do it for a reward. I do it because I want to donate what I receive from Baba. The other day in the Murli, he said, it is not, he said, check yourself, how big was your donation today? And I took it and I love it. And instead of trying to keep a chart of how many hours, how many minutes I remember Baba, I asked myself, how big was my donation today? Donation of love and happiness and peace and all the good, fantastic jewels and treasures that Baba is giving us now. So, yes, my thought, if it's a donation, it's unlimited, because I don't expect anything back from it. It's totally altruistic. Baba says, you're not true altruist, I'm the only one, because I never get a reward, but it's a side effect. I mean, you don't do it because we want a high position, because this comes. This is the result. It's not a desire. It's not the goal. The goal is now to purify, to get to the point of perfection and donate this vibration, this frequency to the world. And it's very powerful, very powerful. The highest, the most subtle, the most powerful. That's Baba. That's why Baba was the subtlest of all. He is the most powerful. of all the souls.
So, Drossoula,
Yes.
we have some questions here.
All right.
One of them, do you think the time goes faster as we move to a new era?
The time moves faster, definitely. Actually, there are many different speeds of time depending on how Mike George had given a very nice lecture on the real time and psychological time and emotional time and all of that. Apparently there are, it seems, well now, it does go faster because it is the end and all the karmic accounts have to be settled. So things do happen faster, or they feel they go faster. Maybe the sun doesn't move faster or slower, but yes, it feels definitely that it's going faster. And that's because the machine of karmic accounts, they have to be settled. All karmic accounts have to be settled now. So the speed is faster, definitely, I think.
Yes, thank you. Somebody wants to ask, what means scientifically your thoughts will lead you to your destination?
That whatever your aim and your goal is, and you send that vibration, that frequency out, that's why Baba says, Man manabav madhyajibav. Think of me, but think of heaven. Visualize heaven. Feel, whether in visualization or experience, visualize heaven. That's the goal, and that's what will happen. Yes, thought has a result. Thought has an effect, and what I think happens. As Einstein said, it's not science, it's not, rather, it's not philosophy, it's a science. In other words, it's scientific energy. The energy that of the soul, the vibrations of a point of energy, spiritual energy, are actually vibrations, waves that go out. Now that's science. The same way that the physical energies are emitted. They're invisible also, but they have a source. They're not energies by themselves. All physical energies have to be created. Electricity, through wind, through water, through something. Something has to happen to create energy. The soul is energy itself. It has lost its power, but it doesn't cease being an energy. That we just forgot that we are spiritual beings and not bodies, that diminished that energy, that trapped that energy, and became of a low level, low quality of energy. Now we understand, we know, and we experience it. And the more we connect with the source, or the higher source of purest energy there is in the universe, and that's our Baba, then we come back to the original state of being. Yes, it is scientific. the soul works like electricity works, and much better, faster. it's electricity is also waves, right? We don't see them, we see the result of it. We don't see the energy running through calodio.
Wires.
The wire, exactly. But we see the lamp lit. We see whatever it's supposed to do it, to give movement or light. Yeah. The soul is energy, is a frequency. It's not a nothing. We think thoughts, go and never mind. No, every thought has its repercussions, its consequences. That's why I have to be careful.
Okay, thank you, Drossoula. There is another question that we can go through very quickly because the time has passed, but it's a very interesting. It doesn't have to do with science or anything, but Sister Paula from New York, can you please talk a little bit about Brother Anthony and his contribution to Baba's Yagya as one of Baba's senior instrument?
Yes. Yes, and as I said, we had a lot of time to think of him the last few days in July, because that's when he left the body 9 years ago. What to say, Anthony was a deep churner. He was really, the knowledge was for him something that he understood so well, and he had the ability to explain, to talk about it in such a way that it made it easy for all of us, for the world who listened to him, because Anthony was not just, his contribution was not just to Greece. Okay, we're lucky to have him, but he traveled the world. He touched so many souls. And in fact, the message that came from Baba when Anthony was being garlanded with many, many garlands, and Baba said, these garlands are not from me, they're from all the souls who benefited from you. They're beautiful. And on the day, on the 26th, which is exactly the day he left the body in Brazil, his sister was visiting Greece, and the plan was not exactly planned that way, but it happened that the only day she had to come to the center, because she wanted to come meet us and see the place where Anthony lived, she came on the day. So we met her. She's lovely. And she admitted that although she had a very close connection with Anthony, closer than with the brothers, the other three brothers, and that she had not really realized the magnitude of Anthony's influence in the world, of his vibrations, his teachings, his everything. Whatever he is, he's like he's still there. We feel, because we still see him on YouTube and listen to him. And she said, I had not realized until after he left of the magnitude of who he was. Still, she was very lovely. She was very moved because we showed a tribute, and we had messages from Charlie and Genti and Yogesh and Sophie from Hungary. And she was she got quite emotional, but she was very happy to be there and to meet us all and to see the place where he lived. He visited every corner of the place. Yes, Anthony was a very special teacher of Baba's knowledge. Very, very special. There are many unique and special teachers. That doesn't take the value away from anybody else, but he was really one of those. He had humor. So when he gave talks, he always made you laugh somehow. And humor is a very good quality to have. It attracts people. It gives pleasure. And yes, and he left behind him quite a lot of, I don't know if we'll ever be able to fulfill his desires, but when he was in, and Maria can say that too, he had a premonition, I suppose, that he was going to leave. And while he was in Brazil, for the last week he was there, he kept sending us all emails constantly and and like a legacy, he was telling us what we have to do. He was telling me, you have to serve scientists and artists. I don't know, why from Brazil he would send such an email unless he had some premonition. And I'll never forget the day, the last drishti I exchanged with him. I've shared that, the Greek brothers and sisters have heard it before. It was a long drishti, and both of us knew, there was a lot of love, but both of us knew that it was a goodbye at that time. It was a Sunday before he left for Brazil. He left on a Wednesday. It's, all of the drama is within. We know the drama, so some things do pop up and we experience them. Yeah. But yes, we remember him often and we listen to his classes. And I think the world does the same. So many thousands of people have benefited and came to Gyan. I particularly am very grateful because, okay, everybody, and Maria and all of us are grateful for having had such a teacher there. But I'm grateful because I wasn't looking for anything at the time. I thought I knew it all. And he patiently came. Baba touched him to come to find me. I was at a point where I had come to a point where I really wanted something else. I wanted something bigger in my life than what I had, something important. I was speaking to God because I felt he was there, not through religion, but through my own feelings about God. And I would tell him, please, tell me who you are. Let me know who you are. I know you exist, but I don't know your form. I don't know your where you live, how you look, what's your coordinates so I can reach you. And I think when I was asking Baba all of that, is that he touched Anthony's intellect to come find me. That's how Baba works. And so I'm very grateful that he did. And asked me to go to Mount Abu, where I arrived one day at 4 o'clock in the morning with a whole convoy of all the guests. There were only 40 guests at the time. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was a misty morning. And I saw I hadn't allowed Anthony to tell me much about knowledge, about anything, or even about Mount Abu. And I saw some people covered in shawls, all walking towards the same direction at 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, what are they doing at this time? The next day, Anthony had told me, bring some white clothes, because that's what we usually wear there, if you want. So I brought some white clothes. The next morning, I put them on, and I follow all of them at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I noticed that they were meditating in silence. So I sat there. I had been meditating in my own way for 15 years prior to that. So I knew what meditation was all about. And after coming out of the hall, I go to Genti Ben and said, Genti, if somebody guided our thoughts to the same direction, we would change the world. I had not listened to any part of the knowledge. He said, I felt so foolish afterwards because she said, Drossoula, this is what we're doing. Without words, because when you think of Baba, we all think the same thought. And that's how the world will change. Yes, lots of love to Anthony. As Baba said, he had to go in Mama's Murli. What did he say? She had to play another part, important part, so Anthony had to play another important part. Yeah, but he's somewhere, an 8-year-old now, probably. Already doing service, I'm sure. His love for Baba was very, very contagious.